Have you seen enough football? Have your eyes fallen out of your head? Has your head fallen off your shoulder? Are you in perennial third and long watching all these games? College playoffs have been fun. We had some shockers. We had some blowouts. We had last second victories. I was really pleased with what I saw in the big picture. What'd you like about what we saw the second round?
Oh, spectacular games. I mean, we were talking about, are there going to be upsets and blowouts? But some of these games, well, the Arizona State game was fantastic. Went right down to the bitter end. But yeah, I think this playoffs has been terrific.
Okay, let's just go bowl by bowl, and I'll make a statement. He'll make a statement. And while we're talking about what we observed, we want you to jump into the Fans Forum chat box and give us your opinion. Rose Bowl. Ohio State destroys Oregon. Hey, Ducks, I guess because you weren't at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, you had problems. I said going into the game on my scouting report, John Riley, that I thought these coaches are going to fight fire with fire. They're going to come out in attack mode. They're going to throw the football down the field. How about the Buckeyes? 500 total yards offense against Oregon's defense. How about the Buckeyes? Touchdowns of 42, 43, 45, and 66 yards. Big plays just like that. How about the Buckeyes? They were up 34-0 in the second quarter. The Ducks just never recovered. Will Howard, the young wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, all things Chip Kelly, Ryan Day's passion. Dylan Gabriel really had problems. He was out of sync so early. 8 quarterback sacks by the Buckeye defense against the Ducks quarterback, and the Oregon defense was just overwhelmed. And the Ohio State defense, led by Jack Sawyer and Mayo, and those guys in the secondary, were just superb. I think the wild card in this whole blowout was the fact Oregon was off for 24 days. They just were not on the edge right from the start. And of course, we saw what Ohio State did, just blazing out of the gates. I was very impressed with Dan Lanning and his response and his salute to the Buckeyes, and the fact it was a learning experience for him as a head coach. But I do think the intangible, not having played in 24 days, had an awful lot to do with it, because the Buckeyes were playing at a much different level than Oregon was right at the start. What do you think about the Rose Bowl?
Well, first of all, what a spectacular venue. Every year, I just love the overhead shots of Pasadena. It's fantastic. You know, Oregon barely beat the Buckeyes to start the season, right? And so we thought this was going to be a competitive game. It turned into a blowout. What were the differences between this playoff game and the opener that we had earlier in the year?
I just think Chip Kelly came out and said, we're going to go downfield. We're not going to try to run the football. We're going to go to attack mode. And they hit all those big plays right from the get-go with Jeremiah Smith. And then they did it with Ibuku. And then they started to bust the running plays on top of it. I just think they ambushed Oregon with their speed and skill. And I just beg the question, where the hell was this early in the season? Where was this Michigan week? Because this is now Buckeyes back-to-back. Huge, explosive offensive series by Ohio State. They right now look like they are unbelievably hard to stop.
Yeah, and this is a game that shouldn't have been, what is this, a quarterfinal or a semifinal? It's too early in the bracket. So I just want to say one quick thing about the Rose Bowl. When I was in college, I had one of my roommates was from New Jersey, and I asked him a story. How did your family move from New Jersey to California? And he said, we would watch the Rose Bowl game, and we would be freezing our tails off in Jersey while there are a bunch of yahoos there in the stands in Pasadena with their shirt off. And it just got to be one too many years, broke the camel's back, and they moved to SoCal.
That was how I got sold on San Diego in the Holiday Bowl. Here I am back east at Christmas time on Long Island visiting family, and it is snowing and it is 10 degrees, and I'm looking at palm trees and sunshine and the Holiday Bowl game and BYU, SMU, and BYU, Michigan. That's how I fell in love with the Holiday Bowl, because of what I saw on my TV.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all things Rose Bowl. You got a comment about what Ohio State did to Oregon. Buckeye comments are invited, and I'm looking for somebody who's a duck wearing green. Your reaction to what happened to your team. Let's go from that to the Peach Bowl. Just unbelievable. Texas, Arizona State. Longhorns went into this game with a fierce defense. I thought Arizona State was overwhelmed very early. There was no quit. It was phenomenal the way the Sun Devils were back. I think they captured the hearts of America. but the defense caved in. I mean, they wound up giving up 510 yards in offense in the course of the game. I asked the question, UT is so spotty. Quinn Ewers makes plays, doesn't make plays. Where the hell was the Longhorns running game? And how about Cam Skattebo, the running back, 284 all-purpose yards, running, catching, throwing it. I was so impressed. Sammy Lovett, the Sun Devils quarterback, was under siege right from the get-go, but yet he scrambled. He actually wore Texas's defense out, running all over the field. So Texas may have won it, but I think Arizona State won the hearts of a lot of fans. Tell you what, the officiating was piss poor. I counted 3, if not more, helmet-to-helmet hits that Texas took on Sun Devil receivers and running backs. No flags. And you got instant replay, and you're evaluating it up top. No flags. How can that be? There's just a lot of outrage around the country about how really pitiful the officiating was. A helmet hit is a helmet hit, including when a guy launches and hits a defenseless receiver. I thought the Sun Devils really got shortchanged there. Sum total, that was a hell of a game. Sum total number 2, how about Skattebo? That's a hell of a running back. That's a tough kid. When he's not throwing up on the sidelines, he's running over people, catching balls, throwing halfback option passes, and catching balls out of the backfield. Phenomenal game.
Phenomenal game. And you know, remember you said, well, we're going to get these blowouts in the brackets, and you know, Arizona State can't possibly hang with Texas. And look what happened. It turned into this amazingly entertaining game. We had the missed field goals, the doink at the end. But it was wild. And I'll say this about the Skattebo kick. First of all, I saw him for the first time at the Big 12 game. I hadn't watched any ASU games previous. That kid was unbelievable.
The fire plug.
Yeah, and then he gets out there. This is the best part. Is he's boastful of who he is, and he says, "Man, I'm the best running back in America." And you know, I'm thinking, all right, man, now back it up. And then in the beginning of the game, he was getting snuffed. He got nothing, and then he finally got it going again, and he was able to prove himself right. And he ended up with the MVP, and he was on the losing team.
Yeah, Ken Dillingham's done a great job stockpiling unique talent, transfer portal, and all that. Because what they did was they went to different formations to spread them out, and the defense could not hone in on Cam. And because they had to cover the receivers who started to make some catches, then Skattebo was able to bust into the second level. And once he got that second gear going, he was so impressive. I wish there was more college football for him. I don't know whether he's an NFL running back, but boy, he stole the hearts of America.
Oh, absolutely. That was a great game.
Fiesta Bowl, Penn State, Boise State. Lions defense did not lie. They showed up, and they took Ashton Jeanty out of the game. It was interesting because I said in our preview last week, the most important thing was Penn State would try to take the Boise running back away and then challenge Maddox Madsen, the quarterback, to beat him. And Madsen almost did. He threw for 290. They displayed a dimension going downfield at Boise with the offense we had not seen all season long. But in the end, Penn State's defense only gave up 2 chunk runs to Jeanty out of 30 carries. And Penn State's running game kicked it into gear. They rumbled for 216 yards. I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a great statement about Boise, about who they are compared to everybody else that's left in the Mountain West Conference. San Diego State, you pay attention to the quality of that football team. Penn State moves on. I'm a little concerned about how skitterish Penn State's offense is. Can they throw it consistently? Can they pound it consistently? I just don't know who they are offensively, but boy, defense, they showed up with an iron fist there. That was a good game, and Boise tried to claw back into it, but that was too big a hole to climb out of. But I was so impressed with Boise's competitiveness.
Skitterish or Skattebo, that's the word of the day. This game, I was so rooting for Boise State to have a nice showing, and clearly they were overmatched. But Ashton Jeanty still had over 100 yards, and I think that happens pretty rarely with Penn State.
Exactly. They were going into the game, John, they were giving up only 2.7 yards per carry. Going into the game, they gave up only 100 yards per game on the ground in the Big Ten Conference. Now, Jeanty had 30 carries. He only had 2 chunk plays out of the 30. So Penn State's held in there, did a good job. Sugar Bowl, the tragedy in New Orleans has just overrun all of us. I was so aghast as this game is now being played as we start our podcast, Georgia versus Notre Dame. These two teams to me are almost one and the same. I guess the burning question we'll find out in the next 3 hours, can Georgia's backup quarterback handle Notre Dame's defense? Because Gunnar Stockton's never started a game in college football, has to now because of the elbow surgery to Carson Beck. But the flip side of that is, can the Irish move the football against a really rock-solid Georgia defense? But this whole thing has been overshadowed by the tragedy in New Orleans. And all I could think of last night, the aftermath of that game not being played, was just the terrible thoughts that we in America have to deal with. Tragedy, guns, grievances, deaths, the right to bear arms. I'm tired of hearing about prayers and thoughts, which are supposed to carry us this time until the next time there's an incident. It's really take the shine off the Sugar Bowl. But Georgia, Notre Dame, they're one and the same. Who knows who survives this and gets to the semifinals? But those two teams are about as even Steven as they can be. And John Riley says,
yeah, this will be kind of an interesting game to see, because I mean, both teams quality organizations. You have the backup quarterback with Georgia, but to your point, I think it's the bigger story is all of what's going on. And you've been to the Bourbon Street area.
Sure.
And those streets are really narrow,
yeah.
And everyone's just walking around having a good time. Everyone's happy, and that's unbelievable what went down there.
I saw that pickup truck evade the police, go around the corner, around the barriers, and just barrel down Canal Street.
That's what it was,
which is about as wide as our studio here.
Yeah.
And my heart sank. And sadly, it's America right now.
It is. And, it's New Year's Day. These are big football games, and people around the world are probably going, what the hell's going on? So, yeah, it's just, that's so tough. But I think they did the right thing by, postponing the Sugar Bowl. It would have been too difficult, too dangerous to do it yesterday.
Well, the other issue is they found bombs at 2 other locations on Canal Street that this guy had set up. And now the FBI reports are he had trigger points in his truck to set off other bombs. So they found bombs in water coolers that had been planted in front of stores. And the theory was, well, if it's there, it could be 2 blocks from there at the Superdome too. And that's why they had to lock that thing down. And they locked down the 2 football teams in their hotels too. Nobody was allowed entrance to the hotels. The players were not allowed exit from the hotel. That's just tough circumstance.
Well, I have one football question. When was the last time Notre Dame won a national championship?
Well, you'd have to...
Is that within the Lou Holtz era? It's got to be, right?
Probably close. Yeah.
So it's been 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I don't think it was Ara Parsegan who was way before Lou Holtz. Now, way back in the Frank Leahy era, when Notre Dame football and Army Navy football was superb and above everybody else back in the 40s, there might have been a championship there. But yeah, I would say in the Holtz era probably was the last one.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's a recent winner, so, maybe Notre Dame, it's their due.
Okay, you got a comment. Fans Forum chat box is open. Fill it up. Hey, by the way, we want some first-time callers. Jump into the podcast. Tell us what you think. Be a first-timer. Identify yourself. Joe from